This presentation is about full mouth rehab. There's a couple different ways to approach this. I'm throwing out the ones that have to do with full dentures because that's really not what implantology is about. So what I'm presenting here is a multidisciplinary approach. We're using implants as well as several aspects of general dentistry, maybe in a way that someone else would have thought was a condemned case. And then another case just where we're using all-on-X or all-on-4 technology with the patient that we're just going with implants alone. Okay, so this is your before look at the patient. Obviously, we've got some oral hygiene issues. I'll tell you on the front end, though, that this is a redemptive story about how a young man can turn his life around. He's actually a very, very nice young man, and he actually completely changed his oral hygiene through this program, as you see. Okay, you can see these class 3, obviously, oral hygiene issues, decay, missing teeth. I mean, he's got it all going on there. So many people would look at this and just say, just take all the teeth out and we need to start over. But that's not really the case. Oh, sorry, went too fast there. I do a lot of ortho too. What you want to know here is he's class 3. He's got a bit of a concave profile. So as I was looking at this, I noticed that he went to close. He was actually posturing the jaw forward. He was really more end to end than he was class 3, but he had no place to put his teeth, so he was kind of posturing forward. So the class 3 isn't quite as bad as you would think it is. Okay, so the treatment plan here that we're going to follow is scaling root planing with the ND-YAG laser. So we're going to do some pocket reduction that way, and it's not. It's just scaling root planing and the laser on a lower level that a hygienist can use. It's not full perio surgery. We're going to extract 4, 6, 11, 12, 13, 15, 19, and 30. And I'm going to do this with an X-ray in a second that makes more sense to you because it's kind of hard to follow when you're going with just with the pieces laid out like this. So I'll make it more visual in a second. And then we do buildups on 3, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 14. Some of that was because I wanted to save the teeth because I'm going to use them, as you'll see, for temporization. Others was just so the poor guy could have better looking teeth in the meantime. I find that if you make the patient look better and feel better about themselves, that you get much better responses and much better patient compliance. We're doing orthodontics on the lower, and all we're doing there is just bracketing canine to canine and pulling things together so we can reduce the arch length and diminish the class 3. Because again, the class 3 wasn't that bad, so I'm going to steal a little from here, here, and here to find out that we don't need to actually do full braces or orthodontic surgery or anything like that. We're going to do crown and bridge on the entire lower arch. We're going to prep and impress 3, 7, 10, and 14, make a roundhouse temporary that he's going to be in while the implants are healing. And we're going to extract these teeth here, 2, 5, 8, and 9, and place implants at each one of those sites, as well as 13 and 15, and hope to deliver a bridge. We deliver the temporary bridge that's been off of the teeth that were prepped at 3, 7, 10, and 14. Now we're going to impress for a implant-supported temporary bridge after that, after those heal in there for 3 months. And then we're going to take out those teeth that we left behind. So we're working this case in stages here. It takes a little longer this way, but again, the patient's in a good, stable prosthesis the entire time, and that makes them happy and more compliant. And then we're going to do the final impression and, of course, deliver the final bridge. Okay, looking at this now on the x-rays, you can see the massive amount of calculus, but what you'll also notice is that this patient's bone levels really aren't that bad for the lower teeth. I mean, there's something to work with there. Obviously, you can see the abscesses, the broken down teeth. I always take those teeth out because I want all that disease out of the body. So we do scaling root planing first. And then we take out the teeth that I'm showing you right here, leaving the other ones behind. On all these that have a little white dot, we then did the buildups on those. The 4 with the A's on them, those are abutments for the temporary bridge. The other 3 I kept around solely so the young man would have a better looking smile as he's going through this. Because again, I want to get him on board with this. Then I do ortho across the front to pull that together. After we pull it together for about 2-3 months, we go ahead and do crown and bridge across there. By this time, I've definitely got him back end to end, and his orthodontic case is looking much better. I've got a temporary bridge in there, which I can adjust the angulation on. So that's how I'm going to solve the rest of the bite problem. And then I'm going to place implants at these sites here in the hopes that they're all going to survive. They're all immediates or delayed immediates. And then we're going to do a final bridge across them. And you'll notice, and right up front, I'll tell you, we've only got 5 implants left. We're done. That's because the implant at 8 failed. And I thought that rather than redo it as separate bridges, which was my idea in the beginning, I just decided to make it a roundhouse bridge with those 5 implants. All right. So we didn't do photography through this whole case. That's why I took that through you so much, to show you what went on to get here. At this point, we've done the scaling root planing, we've done the orthodontics, we've done the abutments, we've done the lower crown and bridge after doing the orthodontics. And you can see also that this young man is staying very clean. Sorry, I should have shared this with you. He actually comes in from out of town. I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. He was from Amarillo. So he has to come in, we do the work, and he comes back. So it's not like he's coming every 3 weeks for a cleaning or something like that. Again, you can see that we've got these prepped up and just looking a little better for him so he can feel better about himself. All right. So I use MegaGen AnyRidge implants, and we at this point in this procedure extract 2, 5, 8, and 9. So we're going to do immediates in those sites. 13 and 15 were extracted earlier, and now I'm going to put implants in there. Honestly, between 13 is kind of between 13 and 12, because if you can use the better bone, why not use it? All right. So this is with the pathfinders on. There's little attachments that go on top of an AnyRidge implant to show you the angulation of the implants and in the hopes of what we'll be able to use down the road. You can also see now that the temps are off, at least on some of these teeth, and that's because we're going to go ahead and seat the temporary bridge on top of this. So here's the day of the placement. This was actually just halfway through the surgery, the picture on the left. That's why you see 4 and you don't see the other 2 at 13 and 15, because I only had 4 pathfinders, so we took the photo here. Let me see here. And then this is 3 months afterwards with the healing. You can see the placement of those implants now with the healing abutments on there. What this patient's been wearing this entire time is, that's why you can see the irritation on the ridge, is a temporary bridge that hasn't come off, and it's worked great for him. I'm telling him not to eat on rocks and really hard food, but I'm not keeping him on just strict soft diet. There's the day of the surgery, so you can see the temporary that he leaves with, and we've got that ground in pretty well up top. And that's really fitting pretty well. You can see now that class 3 has been solved with the combination of the orthodontics, the crown and bridge, and on the lower, and the temporary angling out slightly on the upper, which, as you know, with anterior implant placement is going to be even more advantageous down the road, because they're going to kind of angle toward the anterior level. Okay, so the patient's looking really good. What I want you to notice here is look at how nice this tissue is. I mean, that's just gorgeous tissue. This is just a kid that got it. Remember where the patient started at. I'm going to show you here in a second. That's where this patient started from. Going back, that's where this patient is now. That's what I look for in this process. When I take a patient down this path, I tell them on the front end, so much this about verbiage and how you talk to your patients. And I tell them, look, this thing can go one of 2 ways. You can buy into this program, you can make changes in your life, and everyone deserves a second chance. So you're getting a second chance dentally. You're not getting a third chance. If this patient had just came back and didn't know which end of a toothbrush to use and this and that, I wouldn't have continued down this road. Probably I would have started thinking more about taking everything out and just scrubbing it and doing a complete implant case on this upper and lower. But obviously this patient's doing fantastic. There we go. All right, so sorry. This is the day of the extractions of the teeth now. So this is so the implants have healed now for 3 months. We go in there, we check it, we take ISQ readings. They're all really great, except for number 8. Number 8 is failing. So we take number 8 out, and that's when the decision is made. You know what? Let's just carry forward with these abutments. And we've already had this scanned out, so we had the abutments ready to go. So we have the abutments in place, and we're going to hang the new temporary off of those after extracting the teeth. And you can see that teeth have been extracted. It's starting to heal on the right. That's 3 weeks later. So that's the day of. Come in and you've got the teeth still in place, and you've got the 6 implants in place. The 1 implant fails, and now we're back to 5 implants, and the teeth are gone. So we've extracted the 4 teeth, the bad implant, and we've got the other 5 left, and we've scanned that, and we've made it temporary to come across that. And there's the implant-supported temporary. On top and bottom, you can see there's some angulation issues that we're just trying to rough it in to get something the guy can use yet. We're going to worry about the final prosthesis later. We'll get all the angulations right and everything else. Actually, in the end, I actually liked the bite and the look of the temporary better. The patient wants to go with a lighter one, as you're going to see later on, and I kind of like this one better, personally. I mean, that's pretty darn good. So the great part about this is that's what this guy is wearing, this and the one before this. So he's so happy during his temporization phase. To him, you have to understand, he was living in dental hell before. Patients like this are euphoric. They're completely happy. And this guy, it's amazing, being out of town, didn't have the bridge come loose to this problem, that problem. It was pretty easy. And we did see him with Duralon, though. We used a little stronger cement. There's this bite. There he is, smiling away. This guy couldn't be happier now. At this point, he'll do whatever I ask him. All right, so here we go. We've got everything healed up now. We've taken the final impression, scanning everything digitally. And now we're going to put the final bridge in there. There it is. And as I've told you, he wanted to go a little bit wider. That was definitely not my choice, but it was his choice. He says, "Well, I'm gonna grow this way." I would have liked to have had it stay the other way. You can say he's more flat now. He's less, concave. He's convex. He's concave. He's less concave, and he's got more of a flat profile. So we've improved the profile somewhat. If you really want to go all the way with a case like this, you can do a genioplasty and bring it back a little bit. He was quite happy with where he was at right now. There's his bite. It's pretty good. There's the restoration. There he is from a lateral view, either side. And there we go. So he is one happy camper at this point. And other than coming back for routine cleanings, because he doesn't come to town that often, I haven't had a problem with this case at all. And that's what you want in the end, is you want a happy patient. That's my end result in all this. In this case in particular, I sing this young man's praises. He didn't have to turn it around like this. And he did. And it's going to change his life, as all of you know, because he was heading toward pure dental hell. All right, so the advantages to this particular approach: you can use multiple dental techniques to salvage the existing dentition. You don't have to sacrifice everything. And that's maybe one of the main points that I want to get across is step back and look at the things that are foundational to us as dentists. Do you have good periodontal support? Do you have good bone support so that we can actually still save things? Can this young man learn to turn his hygiene around? If he can, well, if your patient can, then we can work with that. And if using a scaling root planing with a laser and crown bridge, man, you can get that stuff done pretty quickly. I mean, it doesn't take that long once you get pretty quick at doing dentistry to, restore the posterior first is a classic thing, just both sides in one appointment. Open the bite up, because often we're opening the bite up in these cases, and then, make the anterior crowns next and have them be a little bit, and it's the same day you seat the posterior, you prep the anterior, so they never notice the fact that there's an anterior open bite where you're opening that. And you're using a custom milled temp to make them look good, again, very quickly and fairly, so they look great. And they're functional, they're fairly functional. Again, all the ethnic foods, Chinese food, Mexican food, Italian food, all those all have a soft nature to them other than a few hard things in the diet. So that's a pretty good diet for a guy to be eating. He was darn happy. It gives you complete control over the vertical. Also, I mean, of these cases you'll see, and the guy didn't want to pay for, he kind of cheaps out, so he only wants to do like 8 of the crowns or 10 of the crowns or something like that, and not the last ones. I'll throw the last ones in for free just so I get to control the color and the look of the case and the vertical and all that. I'll do whatever it takes to make the case perfect. I preach that all the time. Make the case perfect, because that's what the patient's going to remember, not what it cost or what you did or didn't do. In this case, I'm preserving the alveolar bone, both with the teeth that are left behind and then with the implants that come in after that. And I'm not doing major reduction the way that we do with all-NX surgery with the hybrid restoration. All right, so now the next case we're going to look at is an all-NX, and we're utilizing chrome guides from Rowe Dental Labs. It's just my favorite way to do it because it all gets cookbooked into one thing. The advantage to this approach is it can be used on just about any dentition, including fully edentulous. As long as there's adequate bone and aesthetics, then we can work with it. There's about 4 to 6 weeks of prep work with the lab. You're taking digital photos, CBCT, regular photography, you send it all off. Often you have to make a bite splint to make sure that the bite's good, to make sure you get the bite registered as good as possible. If they've only got 3 teeth, then you got to put something there like a transitional denture to help that. Again, just take the bite registration. But then after that, all the work's done in one day. And the patients kind of like that. There's less appointments in chair time. The other young man's case definitely went on a while longer than this one. And there's a huge psychological benefit to patients. Look, for those of you out there who don't do these, and there's so many purists that say, well, I can't believe you took away the alveolar bone, and did this, and did that. Man, all I know is that I've never, ever had a patient have buyer's remorse with this, because, again, you got to put yourself in their skin. They've lived a life of dental hell. They hate their teeth. They hate their smile. They hate everything about their mouth. And bang, you change it in a day. You feel like, oh my God, I just went through 6-8 hours of surgery. What it was, I beat the poor guy up. He's all sore. You're fighting the anesthesia clock. So the anesthesia is wearing off and all that, because I don't do IV sedation. Hey, if you do IV sedation, wonderful. But even then, you got to sedate them for like 6-8 hours. That's a long time. But so you feel that way. They usually, especially in these cases down in Mexico, they got the whole family out there. It's like one of those makeover shows. They're all sitting out there. They want to take photos with you and this and that. They come back the next day and they go, oh, it was great. And I'm like, how were you great after that? It's great because of the huge psychological effect that it has on them. The temporary looks great and is very functional as the patient heals. Admittedly, they're on a very soft diet now, very light function at first. For them, I'm telling them, boy, you got liquid diet first couple of weeks, yogurt and stuff like that for the next couple weeks after that, and then a very slow gradual. And I impress them over and over and over. The number one cause of failure of this by far is if your diet is too hard and you don't listen to what I'm telling you. All right, so this is how it comes from Rowe Dental Lab. It's in the case there on the left, all kind of packed up. And then you spread it all out and you get it all sterilized and ready to go. Planning is so important with a case like this, because the more you plan it out and the more you lay it out in advance and get your mind locked into it, and the more it just kind of flows just like that. If you don't, if you're just kind of flying by the seat of your pants, I guarantee you're going to have some problems because there's just way too many working parts. All right. So they send you a plan that tells you everything that's going on there. And you've planned this out ahead of time with the lab techs. So you know exactly what's going on. And you're the one that made the final choices. And then they show you these great pictures that you keep right on the wall behind the patient as you're working. So there's no way you can forget all this stuff because you have so many notes surrounding you. And then as far as that goes, any sort of, and I'm a big fan of this, man, have all the stuff there that you need and then some. If you're not sitting there going, well, do I go to a larger core or a larger length or this core, that, I have all the implants I could possibly use in this. And then I've got extra MUAs just in case something goes wrong. I drop one on the floor. I'm not going to be scrambling on the floor during surgery trying to find a little screw head when I'm going to be doing these cases anyways, and these things hardly have a shelf life. All right. Oh, so this case, full disclosure here, this case was not done by me. So why am I showing you? I'm so proud of the guy that did it. This was a dental student down in Mexico. And he took to this stuff like a duck to water, so much so that you'll see at the end that he actually becomes an instructor. But this was a case that he did about 4 or 5 years ago. So the patient has huge perio in there, has recession, a lot of teeth, but they're a mess, and they know where they're headed to, and they don't want a denture. So the guy was all on board for all on X. So the first thing we did was we reflected the buccal flap there so that you can get the guide on it and have to go there. Some people actually just shoot these pins right through the soft tissue. I just can't do that. I've got to flap it anyways, so I'm going to do it. So here I go. Dr. Albier, it's Dr. Ali Albier, by the way, is the student at the time and instructor later on. Just a fantastic gentleman and a great clinician. So here he is. He's reflected the buccal. And then you put this guide on. The sole purpose of this guide is to hold the next metal guide, the chrome guide, in place. So it goes onto the teeth. You can see the little windows there to make sure it's seated properly. And actually, right when you get the case back, you have the patient in and you check that out, because if this doesn't fit, then there's no way anything else is going to fit down the road. Then you would have a problem with this. Obviously, this one fits. So then and it has little clips on the bottom of it that then clip into this. That's what you see right beneath the guy's nose, that larger clip that's sticking out there like that. Then there's one to the right side. There's one further back there to the left too. You can't see it. There's 3 of them. And those are the pins that have been driven in to the bone now that you see between those. So you can see 3 pins and sort of see 3 clips there. There's actually more pins. There's one further back. All right, so then you detach it, you pull the little plungers out, and off comes the plastic guide that holds this in place. Now this thing is completely supported by the bone and the pins in the bone, and it just floats there. So you can do whatever else you want here with the teeth, etc. All right, so at this point, the teeth are no longer necessary. They've done their job, and it's time for them to go meet Jesus. So you go ahead and pull the teeth. And then you've got to reduce the bone down to the same height of your chrome guide. And you can use rongiers. And you can see also it's a neat trick there when you flap the palatal to use suture to hold the tissue back. That way you're never going to touch it again for the rest of the surgery. This little burr that looks like a acrylic burr on steroids, we call it the bone eater. And that thing will eat the bone away very quickly and smooth it down very nicely. So we use rongeurs, and then we go ahead and we do this. Oh, I should have said this. When Ali was doing this, we're doing this at the Wehrle implant immersion course in Puebla. This is where we do all our training down there. I teach implantology to newbies and to advanced dentists, depending upon. And Ali had already taken the beginner's course, and now I'd come back for this more advanced course. All right, so it's nice and smooth. How do you know it's smooth? Because this next thing sits on there passively. When you put this on, this little guide, if that's not sitting passively, if you're having to push it down at all and force it, you take it back off, you remove the bone that's in the way, and you go ahead and put it on there, because that's going to be critical down the road. Then you take that back off and you put on this metal chrome guide that's on there, and you'll notice that 5 of those 6 osteotomy hole guides, they have round holes. That's because those are for straight implants. Straight implants means straight. Sorry, not straight. Not straight implants. Straight MUAs. The straight MUAs are going to be always easier to deal with, but you can't always get them, especially toward the posterior, off there for the angle. So you can see that one on my left side. I don't know how you're looking at the screen, but as you look at the screen, the one on the left side, that one's got a different shape to it because it has angles, because it's going to have a hex built into the ring so that you can align the interior hex with that. All right, so again, I use MegaGen AnyRidge. This is the R2 kit that goes with it, that is for any guided surgeries. So you're going to make your osteotomies right through the guide, as you can see. And then you're going to place the implant right through there. And the driver has lines on it that line up with the internal hex, and you're going to line up those lines with the hex that's on the guide. So in effect, you're going to make sure that you know where the hex is, because that's going to matter when you put the MUA on and later on. Straight ones, again, not near as important. You just have to sink them to depth. There we are. We're going along, putting the implants in. And now the that guide's been taken off, and we're putting the MUAs on. You have straight MUAs on there. Got them on. These are the temporary cylinders. It's best when you put these temporary cylinders on to put them on one at a time, and then try the denture on, because if you put them on all at once and they try to put the denture on, you're not going to be able to tell the hybrid prosthesis. Excuse me. You're not going to be able to tell which one of the temp cylinders is hitting abruptly. You'll see that there's those two plastic pegs sticking up off the guide. That's because there's corresponding holes in the appliance that sit on top of those to hold it in position. That's how you're able to center yourself. And as you're going to see here, that one was about dead on perfect. I mean, that's just drop dead gorgeous. When they're right in the middle like that, often you'll find one that's off a little bit, and again, often it's the angled MUA, and you'll have to actually grind away at the prosthesis a little bit. Okay, so what we're doing now is we're putting in Quick Up by Voco. There's another competitor out there that's working pretty well now too. The name escapes me. I'll get it as I come back through. But you put it in there, and you hold this in place, and you're going to lute the prosthesis to the temporary cylinders now. In this case, we used a little temporary material in the temp cylinder holes so it wouldn't pop in. Now they have these cool little plugs that go in there that make everything easier. They're always coming up with new little gimmicks and gadgets just to make things a little bit easier. It's all the little stuff that add up over time when you're doing something this long. So every little thing that you can do to minimize time in the mouth and minimize the patient's surgery time, the better off the patient's going to be. So we've got this, put it in there, let it set up. You take it off, and that's what it looks like when you take it out. Now, at this point, you would go back in and you would repeat the exact same process with what's called a rapid. The rapid is just a clear one, and that one is going to be used by the lab down the road, because it's always nice to have two of these. If you only have one, then the prosthetic part down the road becomes much more difficult. Not impossible, but much more difficult. And this was all old school stuff. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you the new way that they're doing it now that is really cool. And it's called conversion to final. And C2F is what they call it. So it's instead of those big gaping holes on the one that the patient is going to wear, you're going to see this process wherein you make much more conservative holes using the appliance that you just took out. So basically what you do is that first one becomes your rapid that the lab uses down the road. And then you're a staff member, while you're doing all your suturing and getting the patient closed up, goes ahead and makes the second prosthesis purely chair side, again, in about the time that it takes you to suture. So if you're understanding this, we don't have to spend as long in the mouth because we aren't putting one in and take it back up. If you wanted to go in and do this all over, what you have to do is go back to this stage here where the MUAs are on there, and then you have to put new temp cylinders on there, the rapid, which is again a clear acrylic appliance, bond it together, put it in, take it out. All this stuff takes time. So now you don't have to do that anymore. You're using conversion to final. So it gives you longer lasting temps, gives you extra a master model on the day of the surgery. The master is what the lab uses. And most importantly, is shorter surgery time for the patient, because we're always trying to do that, because especially for guys like me who might use a little halcyon or something like that, but they aren't using conscious sedation, you've got to be able to run this pretty quickly where you can do your surgeries in about 3 hours per arch for the patient to be able to tolerate all this. All right, so here's the difference between them. So you see how big those holes are and how sloppy that looks on the right, and how much better it is on the left. I mean, just imagine for the patient how that looks and how that feels. All right, so here's what you do. You've taken the first one. This is a rapid that was taken out of the patient's mouth. And then you're starting to add these appliances on there. So first thing you do is you put the cylinders on there, then you put the MUA attachments, and you're going to go ahead and put this on a master cast they have that, again, has those two little holes made in there already, the two little plastic nipples that go up into the prosthesis that always hold this in place. So it's held in place. This sticks through the holes, and just like in the mouth, you're going to loop this to the prosthesis. So you put a little Velcro around there. And then you're going to, this is a really cool thing. Now, these are not normal appliances. This is something they made special for this. These are special. You take the MUA off, and by unscrewing the head, you leave this hollow cylinder all the way through that is the perfect size for a drill. So now you can drill through and what's going to be the final prosthesis. And you just, again, you hold it on the nubs, and you can see that there's little bars in there that actually hold it in place, help to stabilize it so it stays in place, and so it lifts it up a little bit off the tissue. And you just drill right through there and make your smaller holes that are going to come out the occlusal surface. Okay, so you take the appliance off, and you can see now as you look up into there as it's setting up face up, you can see that it's got holes drilled in there already. Look, the holes aren't always going to be the exact angle that you want them in. So you put these little temp cylinders on there one at a time, shortened ones, and you go ahead and make sure that those seat passively. And what'll happen is you'll go to put it on there and it'll be bumping a little bit. You'll see it's rocking. So you go in there, you look, you route it out a little bit, and then you put it back on there. The great thing is you're doing the same thing in the mouth before. Now you're having to do this. Now you're able to do this all outside of the mouth and on the lab bench. Much easier procedure. Okay, so we've got them all situated in place on the right-hand side. That's done. And then you're going to put these blockout rods in there, which I think they made awfully long, but they put them in there so you can easily handle them, so that they'll block out the acrylic that we're about to put in here, because we're going to backfill the acrylic around these. Here's how you backfill it. They've left little holes through on the lingual and the Voco and the Stellar is what the name of the other product is. Both have little tips like this that they can squirt it in there. So why are you holding it upside down like that? Because you're using gravity then to work for you. So it's going to pull it down so it doesn't go up and lock around the cylinders. In the mouth, it will be the implants. And then you've got to take it back out if you take it off there, and you're going to fill in all the little holes, fill in the voids. And at this point, you actually even fill in the little nipples. Okay, so look at the difference between these final prostheses. On the right-hand side, what you see is you're even able to articulate these things if you want to. They've got a little articulator. You just put them back on there before you fill the nipples in. It seats on there. You put it in place, and then you go ahead and it's a vortex articulator. You just super glue a little hinge on there. And then you can adjust this to the mouth. Most of the time, you just go to the mouth, you look at it, and if it looks just fantastic, 90% of the time. The other 10% of the time, you can usually you can make the adjustment to the mouth. It's not worth taking that off. But let's say you put it in there, like, darn, man, whatever happened here, my case is off a little bit. I've got a full millimeter posterior open bar, so that you can take it out of the mouth just with a little super glue, put this whole thing together, and go ahead and grind it in so that the occlusion is just drop dead perfect then. Meanwhile, back in the mouth, while they're doing all this in the lab, we're grafting this and closing up the case. Suturing everything down, trying to stabilize the tissue and save as much of the keratinized tissue as possible, which is always the trick there in where you remove the tissue from. There you go. It's all sutured in. Now we're going to work in the bottom. Same thing there. Flap it on the buckle. Put the guide on that attaches to the teeth. Put those on. You have to reduce a little bit of bone there. There you go. You're using the bone eater, and you're using plenty of water when you're doing that. Makes it nice and flat. That sits on there passively. That's a great look at the little nipples and how it holds those in place, because it fits right into the denture, which would be the hybrid blinds. There we go. You just try it in just to see what it looks like. This one has all straight. This was a dream case, man. When you've got 11 or 12 implant sites and you only need one angled MUA, it doesn't get better than that. Part of it is it's just the angle ones. It's kind of harder to reach back there to get the screw into them. So there we go. That's what it looks like. Implants in place, bone reduction done. Now we're going to put this on, put the MUAs on, put the temporary cylinders on. And there is the prosthesis in place. Again, just a beautiful job. I mean, this was really impressive the first time I gave, but then Ali does great work. He's a fine clinician. Got the acrylic around there. And there it is, again, cleaned up. And then again, you would go back and do the rapid again, but obviously we wouldn't do the conversion. So I'll just show you them closing up this case. There we go. There's this prosthesis in place. That's the before and after of this patient. And this was no different. This one, again, had the whole family there, took the pictures and all that, came back the next day for a post-op check. We just check on them, see how they're doing the next day, 24 hours. Patient was happy as can be. Now, just to show you how this turns out with the other style, and also to show you the growth of Dr. Albier. This was done 3 weeks ago at the WIC down there in Puebla, where I do this training. And now Dr. Albier is actually the instructor for the students. This was done by 2 other students. We had 2 different students there. One did the upper arch, one did the lower arch. And when we put this one in, because now it's just working so much better with the occlusion, there was actually 0 adjustments needed. Now that's rare. Usually you have to adjust it a little bit, but we were just amazed that it just went right in there and fit wonderfully. That is my presentation. I am done. There's my personal information for my email, for the educational portal that I run, my cell phone, and the course information for the WIC course. I'm going to field questions now. I think Corbo is going to handle that and let me know if there's any questions. So any questions you have on what I did or how I did it or why I did it or different ideas on how you do it, I'd love to hear it. Corbo, are you there?
Yes, so I'm just keeping an eye out for the chat. We'll probably give it a minute to see if anyone has any questions.
Sure. Well, you guys are thinking about that. I'll hit home again. I mean, these cases, you know, they're very expensive cases for the patients. I mean, if you're charging full boat, you're talking somewhere in the $50,000, $60,000 range. Quite often I give bulk discounts for patients just because I want to help them out. I mean, I usually do this on a day off, but no matter, my point is this, they're spending a good amount of money, let's say $40,000, $50,000, whatever it is. And all this time and all this work and all this surgery, and yet I've never, ever, ever had anyone have buyer's remorse on this. They always come back and tell me it was life-changing, the best they ever did. And let's be honest, that's why we do what we do in dentistry, and that's worth more than the money. We won't take the money, but that's just a wonderful thing to receive from a patient that, you know, you've done this much to.
We didn't get any questions, but we did get a comment from Harry Karna that says, that's an awesome presentation.
Thank you very much. There's something down here in the Q&A. Is that his comment down there?
Yes, it is.
All righty. Well, Harry, I appreciate it. I'm glad you liked it. Look, I'll finish with this because I'm talking to other nerds. I'm a nerd. I'm a dentist. I love it. I love the AAID. When you go there, everyone's just so into implantology. I love the guys that you guys spent just, you know, an hour with me here or whatever on a night off and you didn't have to, because you guys are always trying to learn and grow and get better. That's what I've really loved about teaching down there in Mexico is these students come down there and we're the no fun course, man. If you want to go get drunk and all that, we're the wrong people for it. That the last dinner party when you're not seeing patients, we do that. But at our course, we're working from 7 in the morning, you get breakfast from 7 to 8, and then from 8 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. But it's all the joy of learning. And everyone's so excited the whole time, so up, so positive, sometimes a little bit scared and all that, but because they're learning a new skill. But once they learn it, it's transformational for their patients. I mean, when you can get to do implants, and I tell them all, don't just hear Mike Wehrle's voice. You've got to join the AAID and hear guys like, Dave Resnick, Bernie Dunstan, Hill Tatum, all the guys there that know so much more than me, or just say it a different way than I do. And I want to thank the AAID for having me, and for all that you guys do. You're awesome, and I can't wait till COVID's over so we can have a real national meeting and all get together again. Thank you so much.
I know that the AAID staff loves having Dr. Wehrle around. So we do have another comment.
Sure.
It is from Harry Karna. It says, "It simplifies a lot of things. Thank you."
That's very good. Thank you, Harry. I appreciate it. And you've got my cell number out here. So if you get down the road with this, I tell everyone, if you can't get a hold of me, you're just not trying. If you decide you want to do something like this, you get into it, you have questions down the road, email me, call me, whatever. I'll be available. I'll help you out. I mean, that's what we're all supposed to do here. We're all on the same journey. We're just at different points. I may be a little bit further along than some people, but I'm nowhere near Bernie and Hilton, those guys. So we all just are going together. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I had a great evening doing this. And thank you, Corbo, for all your help, because I'd be lost without that. I can't run into this.
No problem. We do actually have one question from Jerry Kelly that came in.
Yep.
What local anesthetic and how much do you use with the average case?
When I first got out of dentistry, I did a year in hospital dentistry. So I learned that it made me kind of fearless. I learned what truly fragile patients are. So what I use is Septicane and a Marcaine mix. Now Marcaine's got a shorter half-life. So yes, it's longer in its first duration, but the second time you add it, it's not going to last as long. So usually I use Septicane first, and then about an hour in, I'll put a layer of Marcaine over that. But then I don't keep Marcaining it up. I go back to Septicane after that, and I use as much as I need is my answer for you. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to stop when the patient's hurting? And you say, well, wait, the human body can only take 7 carpules and this, that. I've never hit that limit where I can't do it, because they're also burning it off and metabolizing it. But again, this would be one thing where I wouldn't be opposed to hiring an anesthesiologist and putting them under. It's something I'm looking into now, or taking a doc's course or something like that, and doing it yourself. I think that's a huge benefit on a case like this. And also on a case like this, I start them on the antibiotics beforehand. I start them on steroids. I know that some people like to inject the steroids right up in there. Whatever you can do to make the patient more comfortable down the road. And having said that, what you really have to do is get better at these surgeries by doing them more often, so you get faster. Because in the end, I don't care if you've got an anesthesiologist here. If you're taking 5 hours an arch, that's 10 hours and no food, no break, no nothing. I mean, that's long for you. It's long for them. If you can knock it down to about 3 hours, because that's just something like that. So it's just a 6-hour day. That's what I've got it down to now. And that's my biggest defense, is getting good, getting quick, and being ultra prepared when you go in there. There's no running around looking for this, looking for that. And it really does worlds for your confidence level that, if you lose this driver, I have a backup for everything sitting right there. I hope that answers your question obliquely.
All right, thank you so much again, Dr. Wehrle, for sharing your knowledge with us. We hope to see everyone again for our next case. Stay safe, everyone, and have a good night. Thank you.
Thanks, Corbo.